haven't recorded one of these videos in a while. It's always fun to hop on here and talk about some rumblings that I'm hearing of players, maybe incoming transfers, freshmen, or even players that are just growing, maturing, and how they're impressing players and coaches behind closed doors at the Iowa football facility. Of course, camp just around the corner. Now Big Ten Media Days is in the books. So we are getting down to it, 1 month away from football. We're going to talk about one player who I've heard really positive things about since he arrived earlier in the calendar year. We'll talk about that in just a second. But first, a thank you to our newest sponsor, and that is Jeff Knight and his awesome book, Maya the Malamute. I tell you, this is awesome, folks. If you have not gotten this book for your kids, read about the inspiring story that is this dog, Maya, who now visits children in the Children's Hospital above Kinnick Stadium. It's an awesome story. You can read all about it. Go over to their foundation website, www.mayathemalamute.com. Very inexpensive purchase. Get this book, Maya the Malamute. Even if you don't have children, be a great gift for someone you know, or just a great one to have on the shelf to support the cause that is this dog and her encouraging story and the work that she continues to do over at the Children's Hospital. Again, thank you to Jeff Knight and the Maya's Spark of Courage Foundation. So the news, or I should say the rumblings that we're here to talk about this evening involve this guy, Bryce Hawthorne, a kid who I don't believe I spoke much about on this channel when he initially committed out of the transfer portal. He is a transfer from South Dakota State, so he has something in common with Mark Gronowski. In fact, Hawthorne and Gronowski are now roommates. Hawthorne has talked about his relationship with Mark, and even though any football program at this level or at the FCS level is 100-plus people deep, it sounds like Mark's leadership skills were so strong that he built relationships with everybody on the team. Bryce Hawthorne, not an exception. This is going to be Bryce's third collegiate year. He redshirted his first year, played his redshirt freshman year last year at South Dakota State. And how about this? As a redshirt freshman, totaled 5.5 tackles for loss, 2 quarterback hurries, 4.5 sacks, 22 total tackles. He finished as a freshman All-American as a redshirt freshman at South Dakota State, very under-recruited. At a high school, he reportedly had offers from St. Thomas and Sioux Falls, but just amazing how under the radar this kid stayed. And yet in year 2 at South Dakota State, he's a freshman All-American. Impressive stuff. His freshman year, he played 3 games. He wasn't even an undisputed starter last year. I mean, I look back at depth charts for South Dakota State, and I went back and combed through some film against their best opponents. I'm going to talk about that in just a second. And he was playing, but he wasn't getting starter-level snaps. Now, I don't know that he'll end up as a starter this year at Iowa. I've heard from some people within the program that think he could end up being one of the 4, which is impressive given the fact that you've got experienced players coming back ahead of him, like Jeremiah Pittman, Aaron Graves. And I don't think he's going to beat out Aaron Graves, but perhaps there's a spot alongside Aaron. Now, he's listed right now on the Iowa website at 6'3", 296. He was listed at 285 at South Dakota State. So if the weights are accurate, that's about 11 pounds in the upward direction. And from what I was told earlier this offseason, when he got to Iowa, he immediately impressed players, coaching staff. He was described as being really smart, bigger than almost everyone in that defensive line room besides Aaron Graves, and quicker than everyone, including Graves. That's a quote from a source in the know on that Iowa defensive line group. So really impressive verbiage there. And I'm sure during this summer, he's gotten stronger, gotten bigger. And, year 3, he's still going to get bigger coming over from South Dakota State. High school offers, I mentioned those. How about portal offers? He reportedly went on a visit to Wisconsin. So assuming he had an offer there, who knows where else he was offered. But Wisconsin wanted him to show up. So he did. He ended up committing to Iowa. Now, 2 games that I wanted to go back and look at film from. 2 games for South Dakota State last year against their 2 best opponents. North Dakota State, the Bison, who they lost to in the FCS semifinal round, and then their season opener against Oklahoma State. Now, he was relatively quiet as it relates to stats, production, but here's what stood out when I went back and looked at Bryce Hawthorne film during his redshirt freshman year. First of all, he's got natural athleticism, but he gets low. He uses his size and leverage to win that battle, right? Low man wins. We always hear that. He's got great strength, consistent with what I've heard since he's gotten to Iowa. And that's good that it's translated over to a Big Ten defensive line room. And he also was eating up a number of double teams in the footage that I watched. So if he's doing that as a redshirt freshman against Oklahoma State, North Dakota State, best of the best in the FCS, that's a positive sign. And assuming there's the maturation there, it's no wonder that programs like Iowa and Wisconsin wanted this young man. It's just amazing that he flew so far under the radar. He hails from Osseo, Minnesota. So he's a Midwest kid. I'm not aware that Iowa had any clue about this young man out of high school, but they certainly did. And it helped getting Gronowski onto campus. I believe Hawthorne committed to Iowa just days after Gronowski finished his visit to Iowa. So Hawthorne actually committed first. And again, he's got 3 years of eligibility remaining. He's in his third year right now, but he redshirted in year 1. So I'm really anxious to see how this kid fits into the mix. Here's a look at that defensive line group, specifically defensive tackle, because that's where Bryce is going to line up. I mentioned Jeremiah Pittman, Aaron Graves. Those are kind of the veterans on the inside. You also have the Central Michigan transfer, Jonah Pace, who I'll talk about in another video. And then as far as other defensive tackles, Maddox Borcherding Johnson, this is going to be his third year in the program. Brad Fitzgibbon is a freshman. You do have Brian Allen, who's going to run some on the inside, some on the out. And then it sounds like Will Hubert has been a big help to Bryce Hawthorne since he got there. But that is a position that Kirk talked about during his recent Big Ten Media Days availability that Iowa felt they were a little thin at, interior of that defensive line. So he's got a chance not just to play. He's going to play. Kirk said as much during his availability. He's not just going to play. He is going to have an impact, I think, immediately. Do I think he'll start? Boy, I don't know that I'm quite ready here a month out to make those predictions, because I do think maybe Brian Allen ends up being the official starter. And then I think the top 4 interior guys, if you had to ask me right now, my top 4 interior guys in that defensive line, they would be Jeremiah Pittman, Aaron Graves, of course, not in that order, Brian Allen, and Bryce Hawthorne, Jonah Pace. Man, I don't know. I think I got 5 guys that'll run there. And then if Brian Allen moves to the outside a little bit at times, then more time for Jonah Pace, Jeremiah Pittman. I think Bryce Hawthorne's got a higher ceiling than both of those guys. But Jeremiah Pittman, Jonah Pace, both really experienced college football players. Hawthorne still somewhat raw, but boy, he's got some upside. So, folks, I hope you enjoyed that little tidbit of information. If you view it that way, I mean, it's just fun to talk about because we've got a month left before football. I talked about our show with Tyler Kluver. If you follow me on social media or you saw the post on YouTube, that got moved from Saturday night to Sunday night. So if you're watching this Sunday, be sure you tune back in at 8 p.m. Central Time, our live show with Tyler Kluver, a live edition of Hawkeye Hangout. Tyler and I are going to talk about everything Iowa football, recapping what Kirk had to say at Big Ten Media Days and a preview of fall camp. So much in store. It's going to be a fun night. Join us live, 8 p.m. Central Time Sunday for Hawkeye Hangout featuring Tyler Kluver of the Washed Up Walk-Ons right here from the Hawkeye of the Storm.